Hello, and welcome to Plant and Nap Low Code Campfire for Friday, November 17th, 2023. Uh, this Friday's topic is Twas the Week Before Thanksgiving, and that is Dale's inspiration for Low Code Campfire number 124. Just a quick overview of what the Low Code Campfire is about. It's a gathering of people who use Plant and Nap or are looking into using Plant and Nap in the future and want to know more about it. All skill levels are welcome here. We have people who are very, very experienced at using Plant and Nap and new people as well, and we want to help everyone. So bring questions, bring something to show others, to share ideas, or be ready to get help or help others. All the webinars are recorded, as this one is being recorded right now. And when we're finished, we publish them on our YouTube channel. And so all that content that we've done over the past 123 episodes is available on YouTube. And we try, in most cases, to have a pretty extensive table of contents for the video so that you can go right to the content you want to find. So we encourage you to subscribe so you know when the videos have been published to the channel. And you can do that by scanning this QR code or simply going to youtube.com/plantandnap and subscribing. Our agenda is always very simple. We'll have some introductions. If anybody's new, we'll call you out. Then we go around the campfire. First call is when anybody can jump in and talk about something they want to. We look at contributions to the campfire website when there's new ones, feature requests on the community site, and any pre-submitted topics. And we do have one today that we'll get to after first call. Then Dark Corners and Ghost Stories, which is where we talk about obscure things that we've found while using Plant and Nap. And then we'll adjourn and we'll turn off the recording. And if anybody's willing, we'll stick around and have some more open discussion that's not being recorded. So please share, show and tell, use the chat window if you want to, or you can just unmute. This is a meeting, so everyone's welcome to unmute and participate when they want to. But we do have a few guidelines. Just if you're not talking and you have noise in the background, please stay muted and just be courteous to each other. Remember, this is an all skill levels group. So you can submit questions ahead of time by scanning this QR code, which takes you to a simple Google form that you can fill out and submit topics ahead of time. And there's just a programming note here. We will not have Campfire next week, November 24th. That's the day after Thanksgiving. And I think that the Plant and Nap US employees will be off, and probably many of you will be as well. So having gone through our standard introduction, I'll open it up and say hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hey, Jerry. Don.
Yes, sir.
Good morning from here.
As you can tell, Dale's not here today. I forgot to say at the beginning, but he is off being an excellent grandfather, supporting his grandson. So we'll move on to one more programming note. I guess this should have been earlier in the slides, but we do have a special holiday schedule for Campfire. December 22nd, we will not have a call, and December 29th, we will not have a call. For those final 2 weeks of December, we will not have Campfire, and then we'll be back the first week of January. Okay, so then we move to first call. Anybody bring something for us to chat about today? I know Matt just joined, and I know he did, but we'll get to what Matt was mentioning to us. But if anybody else has anything they want to talk about, go ahead and jump in first, and then we'll get to that.
I had recently talked to you all about building a a series of PDFs in one giant uh, file, and then output it. That worked out. That's working out great. But one thing I was wondering is, do I have a limit to be concerned with, like the number of characters? I have, it's a single page. It's a typical form. So if you can think of a typical government form that's got a bunch of fields that you fill out, the page is fairly dense. It's not, 3 or 4 fields, but more like, 30. And that makes up one person's request. And then that would all be on one page, one piece of paper. And then there could be 10, 20, 100. I have no idea. So what the workflow is doing is it's building each one of these into a token. So the token is basically a large string. I have no idea what's going on in the background, so I don't know what kind of structure it is, what kind of variable it is. But it's just a big thing that I call HTML. And was wondering, is there a concern that I should have that at some point things will break because the string got too big?
So you haven't noticed a problem so far. You're just wondering if they're.
It's a brand new system. It's not even in place. It's just being tested, kind of anticipating in case there's any kind of problems going forward.
If anybody else knows, feel free to jump in and correct me, but I'm not aware of a limitation that you'll run into, but that's definitely not saying that there's not one.
So if I were to do something like somehow write a little program to generate hundreds of records and then let the thing run, and if it all, generates hundreds of pages in one giant PDF.
The thing that I would question is if you might run into a timeout before you ran into a string limitation. That I don't know how long it's taking right now for you to do that, but that would be my that would be the concern I would think with what I'm hearing, is that you might run into an execution timeout. But
The workflow has an execution timeout?
No, just a request timeout, just your standard web.config request timeout. That's all I'm thinking about.
All right.
Anybody
So
else?
this is an automation, so there's no browser involved.
Okay.
It runs every night. It runs per hour, so it's probable that they're not going to get hundreds of requests in an hour. They could certainly get dozens, maybe 100 in an hour, and every hour it fires off. So is there a timeout involved in that?
I don't think so.
Got it.
But yeah, I think I would want to look into that more. Anybody else have any ideas on that?
Cool. I will. I think the best thing for me to do, just to be sure, a little peace of mind, is that I'll just
Stress test it.
generate a bunch of records, put 100 of them in there, and see that it runs properly, and then I can tell them that it was tested with 100 records. And
yeah, that's what I would do is do a stress test on it.
Definitely works up to 100 an hour, and do a stress test. Cool.
Yeah.
I have another one, but I understand you also have some other thoughts. Other folks have some other things, so I'll yield and jump in later, maybe.
If anybody else has any other thoughts about that, feel free to share with us, or anything else.
Yeah, Don, my question to you on the once an hour, one way to handle that might be, I don't know if this would work for you, but to run it every 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's possible. I could run it for that. It's really more of a matter of convenience for the client, because what this is doing is instead of her getting one email every time a application is filled out, And because this is a county thing, there could be lots and lots of these applications. I understand that they do lots of them every year or every time that they do this. So instead of her getting one email for a single application, I suggested to her that she would get one email per hour that would have one PDF file that's attached that she would print. She's literally, and I've complained about this before in the campfires, but they take these things that we generate from the users, from the visitors to the website. They print out these things, and then they have somebody typing the stuff back in again. In fact, if the DNN folks like the topic, I have a case study and topic on DNN Summit that I've submitted to complain about the same thing. But so instead of her getting one per half hour, now she gets one per hour. And I thought that would be something that would be easily manageable for her. So I doubt it, but I guess I could certainly change it to be a half an hour if we see that there's some kind of a limit that we're reaching.
Any other thoughts?
My only thought on this is I don't know how much processing is involved, and I suspect that for, like you said, let's say 100, it's feasible. Everything is it's completed. Okay. However, if the processing is too long, that was the only thought I had. If the next one kicks in while the first one has not finished, I suspect it's not too much processing, so it won't last. Let's assume that you have a peak of, I don't know, 1,000, and then the next one starts while the first one has not finished, and then get into a loop like that. But like I think Matthew suggested, in case you get to a threshold of that sort, limiting to 30 would be one way of addressing in case you run into this exhaustion until the next one kicks in.
Well, that makes sense. And one thing I just thought of, and you had mentioned it, kind of triggered a thought, is that I'm doing a SQL test at the beginning of it that says select all the records where some Boolean is set. And what I could easily do is I could say select the top X records that I know have run in that amount of time. And then I can always, if some application comes in, if there's so many that comes in a given hour, we know that there's an upper limit to the number that'll be processed during that hour. That will limit it. It'll just push everything back a while. And of course, this is something that humans are coming to the website and applying by filling in a form. There's about 20 data points that they provide. Then, if there is a limit, eventually they'll stop coming in during the day, and this thing runs 24/7. So she'll get the day's applications eventually, probably by 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So that should work out just fine. So that part's a great idea. Thanks. That's a great way to limit it.
I have another thought for you. If I don't know of any limitations, I've done quite large PDFs myself, but not in the hundreds of pages. But if that's a concern, what you might want to do, or what you could do is, and I'm assuming this is kicked off by an automation, correct?
Right.
Every hour. So every hour, what you could do is the beginning part of your automation could do a quick SQL count of the records that you have, and then batch it. For example, divide it by 25. That'll give you how many batch runs you have to do, and then pull them out in batches of 25. Build your PDF. Every PDF is going to have a maximum of 25 pages. and then you have another batch loop to do batch loop number 2, pick up the next 25, keep doing that until you finish the total amount that you had, and then attach all those PDFs to the email. I mean, you may have, 2, 3 PDFs, each one with, a max of 25 in there.
Got it. That's a neat idea too.
I like
Yeah.
that idea too. I like the idea of limiting the size of the PDF. Yeah, I think that's a good, a really wise suggestion.
Yeah, exactly. It works for her too. And like I said, the issue of she doesn't have to know it within the hour that an application came in. The day is just fine. And if there's that many that it runs into the overnight, where at 3 a.m. we're getting to the last ones that have run, she'll end up with several emails, which she's going to do every morning. She's going to get, a dozen or whatever emails from 6 o'clock the previous night, one per hour till 8 o'clock in the morning when she comes in with the night's PDF. So eventually she's going to end up with, an email that says there are no more that came in today. So that sounds like a real good idea. The batching or the limiting is definitely the way to go. What I'll do is I will again do some testing, get an idea of how long X number of records takes to generate the PDF in the email, and time that, and then put a limit on it. Thank you.
Are you using this right here so that if for some reason it does run, so if you wanted to do the shorter interval, you could always use this so that if it is still running when the next fire comes, it doesn't run it. Are you using that feature, or?
I don't recall if I set that, but I probably should. It would be interesting to see if we ever hit that, but I think during the development, which I'm moving on to other parts of the whole project. The project that involves this automation is done, but I think I'm going to swing back around to it, do some stress testing, and see if if it's running for almost an hour, then I would be concerned.
Okay.
I'm thinking that 100 of these things in an hour is going to be plenty, and it should easily fit within an hour's time. Hopefully within minutes time, not that long. Then we shouldn't have a problem, and we're not going to get into the thousands per hour to really concern ourselves. But as long as hundreds work, I think we'll be good. I think I will set the skip if running, and then if she misses an email, she'll probably call me. The whole idea of giving her an email per hour is that she knows that the system is running, and every hour she's getting a report. So she'll see a list of emails that says 3 a.m. 0 records, 4 a.m. 0 records, 5 a.m. 20 records. She will see that, and she'll know exactly that it's running. If she sees 4 a.m. and then 6 a.m., she'll say, "Hey, what happened at 5?"
Okay. Presumably the 4 a.m. when so I get my words out here. Presumably the 4 a.m. one would have lots of records. So you could teach her what that might be the case. But yes,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. All right. And then the fact that it doesn't limit, that's my other question too, was I have a project, and I've talked to you folks about this project before with my wife is writing glossaries. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to input a book, and I'd like the book to become a token. And then I would like to parse through the book to generate a table of all the words that are in the book. And so if I bring the book in as a token and then start working on that token to break it up, I just want to make sure that that I don't hit a limit with the book not fitting into one token or one variable.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely do some testing on that.
Cool.
I know I've created tokens before that contain a lot of information. It's a Razor. When I've done that, it's been a Razor script that has a lot of nested stuff in it as well. But it all boils down to one token that I put on a page. It's a whole bunch of nested logic in Razor scripts. But in the end, the resulting token has a significant amount of content. So, but I don't know if it certainly probably isn't book size. So I
Got
think
it.
it would
Got
be,
it.
yeah. I'm sure. I'm guessing that Ben, you've probably put quite a bit of content into a token before as well.
I've done fairly large tokens. I don't know if I've really done one book size.
Yeah,
Um, but I have done tokens that are probably in a few meg in size um worth of data. I've exported stuff that has been like, over 100 meg. But that's different because it's been processing and it writes out the file in small chunks. But like I said, reading wise, I want to say probably close to 10 meg, I think I've been able to successfully put into a token.
Oh, that's going to be no problem at all. These are Agatha Christie novels, so they're paperbacks. They're not
yeah.
massive. 10 meg, 5 meg, a couple meg. I'm sure there's probably under that even when you think about it. The number of words in a book are not that many.
I mean, one of the things too that you can do is if you write it as a Razor script, the .NET framework is going to be a lot more lenient and flexible with regards to data size. So instead of throwing everything into a token per se, what you might want to consider is writing a Razor script that, let's say, for example, takes a file ID of a file that you uploaded, take that file ID, open the file, and then process the file using .NET um, file system, where you can read the file in, you know, by line. You can read it in batches if you want of, like 64K at a time, whatever it is that you feel comfortable with, but you can do that and it's not going to put as much stress on your memory because you won't literally be loading the entirety of the text in one shot. You'll be processing it in smaller bits, but it will give you that ability where, you basically have more control over what's going on and you won't have to worry about hitting a limit.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I haven't done a lot with Razor scripting, kind of little tiny pieces. So it's going to be an interesting project to jump in there. But it's reminiscent of old stuff that I did years ago. So that would be processing it as a file makes a lot of sense too.
Also makes me think about our AI actions that are fairly new and that you could probably utilize those in some way to create an index of the books by uploading the PDF.
Wow, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, 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 that would be a cool use case to look at. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, well, so this is a note from Matt that I'm sharing here, and it's a problem that he shared with us. And I don't know, Matt, do you want to talk about it a little bit since you're here?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
the
sure. I don't rather than all the words. Basically, server sends out emails for customers of our customer. So we don't know when the emails get sent, who they get sent to, and so on. However, we're keenly aware of the bounce backs. And so I'd like to be able to do is manage those bounce backs some way to if possible, map them to who sent them, which customer entity sent them, and then maybe even type of bounce back, um, put them in a table so we can make the table available to the client so that they can review what their problems are, things like that. So it's a pretty broad question generally.
So I'll start out by saying that Dale and I tossed this around a little bit, and let's see, Let's see. Nope. Okay. So we tossed this around a little bit, and an idea that we came up with was, um, I guess he was thinking, anywhere you send an email, you add an action there. But I was also thinking you could just create a workflow that sends an email, and in the process of sending that email, it also captures so you could pass into a workflow all the information you need for sending the email, and then use the tokens that you need, such as the information about the kind of bucket, the bucket that it's going to go into, the to address, any information that you need, you could capture that stuff into an entity record. And then we were thinking that you could use an IMAP trigger to monitor where the bounce backs would be coming back to, and then use the information from and filter that somehow to whatever the bounce looks like, the subject line or something like that, and then use that information to then connect the bounce back to the record in the entity, so that you can then mark that as that specific one was bounced. Does that, in a loose way, make sense? Or
yes, in a loose way it does. Specifically, I know I could write first of all, the emails are sent in a workflow now, so I can log all of that information, the to, the subject, and so on.
And is it the same workflow for the different
types of emails?
Yeah.
Right now it is, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So that's good. Yeah. So that way, you have the basis of this system already in place. You just need to, and as long as you're passing into the workflow the information that you need to record, then that part's in place already.
So then, you mentioned an IMAP trigger.
Right.
I'm not familiar with those. I mean, I know what IMAP is and so on, but I'm not familiar with the triggers. I was looking at some of the add-ons, wondering if they might do that.
Let me edit this one. Oh yeah. Well, that's it. This is this comes with but it's you should have it, but this comes. Let me go there first to updates and just show you that this is I guess it's the email sync add-on. I'm having trouble remembering if that's the one, but I think that is the one. Yep.
Okay.
And so then what that gives you in automation is this trigger right here, the IMAP trigger. It also gives you a pop trigger, but we have marked that as obsolete. We're going to eventually remove it from the system because it's old.
Pop is going away.
Yeah, who really uses pop anymore? So yeah, so
I would just caution with that because there are some companies that will limit access. Like mine won't allow IMAP. We only allow pop, and they only allow pop to specific things. Like I had to explain to them or whatever, and they had to give special dispensation to my server to access the email server through pop. But I would seriously caution against getting rid of pop because it is still a viable option that many people will use. If pop goes away, that's one thing, but pop is not going away. And for you to terminate the use of it, you're limiting your clients.
I hear you, and I think we've had some discussions along those lines. So it's not we haven't. I don't think I'd have to look at our listing. We haven't created an absolute cutoff for it. So I'm going to make a note, and I'll express your concern.
Much appreciated because I do use it. And I actually just started using it because apparently we were using an old version of Microsoft Exchange and they, I don't know, security for that or whatever was not quite up to par. So they wouldn't allow me to do it. But we just like 2 months ago upgraded. And after we did that, they're like, oh, yeah, we can give you the pop access now, but that's all they'll give me. So I've
Yeah.
been using it for the last couple months, almost very similar to what Matt is looking to do. I have something on screen if you want me to show you of basically in the generalistic way of speaking what you're looking to do.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be great. If you want to share that, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll stop sharing and
okay, so all right. Hopefully you're seeing the correct screen.
yep.
Bounce back emails. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So I use the pop again, not the IMAP. So it's like a 1 minute check. And I have a couple things. First off, I have an email manager. Oops. Didn't, if you can blur that out of the video.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Let me make a note.
I just realized I took a screenshot specifically, so I didn't do that, and then I went and accidentally did it.
We're at
Um,
we're at
I blurred
11.
it out because I didn't want to broadcast people's email addresses
Yeah.
on the public video. Um, so basically, as you can see here, this is my email manager. All the emails that get sent out through the website, it's in a table. I don't delete the records. I just flag them as having been processed. It's kind of like a deleted flag type of thing. So I know that they've been sent by the system and I have a record here. So I could resend, do whatever. But point is that I do have who sent it, who it was sent to, the subject, so forth, so on. So all of that information is already pre-logged. Now, that being said, I have a pop trigger here. Like I said, every minute it checks the email system to see if there's anything new. There's a lot of different things. I have skip processing. So basically, out of office replies, things like that. If it hits any one of these, it's just going to do a stop execution to prevent it from even processing it because I don't care about those emails. But if it's something like this, you'll see here if it's coming from our mailer daemon, if it starts in the subject with undeliverable, that's our email system telling us that it was a bounce back undeliverable returned email. And basically, what I do here is I extract information from the email. So right here, I'm doing some SQL. I just pass it the body of the email,
Hmm.
and I'm extracting out the email address that was undeliverable because it's a specific format that email comes in. And then after that, I just basically create that new bounce back email, and that will show up in here. It puts in the reason for the bounce back, it puts in the email that it came from, as well as a copy of the actual message from the bounce back. So if someone wanted to actually look at that to see the details, to see was there an IP address in there or something like that, they could, review that if they wanted to, and then do whatever they want to do with that uh, that bounce back notification. There'll be buttons here so that they can clear it once it's been processed, whatever. In this particular case, these bounce backs are because we have a user account tracker. As you could see here, it's part of that in the trail. But the user account tracker, if an email goes out by the system to a person that's listed under having an active user account and it bounces back, meaning they're not there anymore, the company, they're not with the company or whatnot, this is an alert to let them know they need to be removed out of the user list because that person is no longer an employee at that agency.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if that's exactly 100% what you were kind of heading for, Matt, but um, uh,
It
I
sounds
kind of thought it was similar, and I was like, well,
mhm.
at least I could show you it's a pretty much doable.
Sounds like the only thing that you would need to add to this model, Matt, is your buckets. Your to put them into the specific types and projects.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ben, no, this is not exactly correct, and I'm a little disappointed in you, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
like I said, with the and
Oh,
it
there it
didn't.
Oh,
is
there you
again.
go again.
Okay.
Okay, I gotta close that.
11:36. I'm making notes. I'll take care of it.
Thank you. In that email manager, I mean, you could always extend that, or you know, in the sense of like the table that holds that data, where you can add additional, fields, so-called buckets, whatever,
Hmm.
to kind of identify those emails if they belong to a particular client. Or, I mean, you don't even need to do that part, because you can always record who originally sent the email, where,
Yeah.
when you create it, you have the user ID. So at least you know who sent the email. But if you need to know within that subcategories, you can always have that as part of what gets sent out. So, in different areas of the system, it's going to tag those emails saying, okay, this email sent out obviously by this user, but it was sent out from this location,
Hmm.
meaning it's, for this project or whatever. And
Yep.
then when you read it in here and you map it to, that original email that went out, you can always have that information, and it can link it into this bounce
Right.
back email. So it
Right.
shouldn't be that difficult to tie it into, the original send.
Well, yeah. First of all, thank you very much. This is very much along the lines of what I was thinking. Um, the I think the initial, first of all, grabbing all of the relevant data necessary to do the tie back to the specific customer, specific project is all things I can get at the send time and store. Um, then the next thing would be getting the information back from the server and parsing through what happened and why. And that's where I think the magic would be.
Mhm.
So I'm currently using, in this case, Office 365 servers, latest Microsoft offering. So would you mind walking through some of these, the triggers, what those switches mean? Go through all the email first run, so on and so forth.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's I think once you like read these, it kind of makes sense, but it's so you can have a start date where you say start at this time. This will say that any email that, and you have to keep in mind that that you're pulling all the email from the account that you connect to. So just
Hmm.
just bear that in mind. And this will make it go through the existing emails there. So
Okay.
if you want to do that, you can. Or trigger only for new emails. And this right here, it tells you that this will ignore the start date. So if you choose this, it'll ignore the specific start date you say, and it will only trigger for emails that come after after you enable this.
Hmm.
Um, compact body text. Remove empty lines. Okay, yep, and that's that one I didn't know right away, and I'm just looking at the tooltip. And then yep, save attachments. If you check mark that, you tell it
Hmm.
the directory where you want the attachments to be downloaded to. Um, Handle duplicates. So you have a choice here of handling how duplicates are
Hmm.
duplicate attachments are kept. And same thing like when you're uh, creating a file on your server
Right.
with the PDF add-on or something like that. You have your directory, you handle duplicates, and you rename.
Hmm.
Um, uh, a UI note that I'm making right now as I look at this is that save attachments should show these three fields, so that's very clear. But this is what they're for,
Hmm.
and then unselecting that should hide them. But anyway, so you can do a filter by subject. You have regex options here um, to on all the main fields. And then also probably the most important thing is you want to really read this because this gives you an idea of what the
Yep.
tokens that are available to you in your subsequent actions. So this will monitor and for pushes from the IMAP server, and then you have access to all those tokens that you see there to use in your actions down here. So this is where you can you could do your insert into, or or do, or like the SQL query that Ben showed you, where he was parsing the body and looking for specific things. You could do that and then do your insert based on that sort of thing.
Does the up top would any one of those, say, header options um be able to filter right there for primarily what I'm looking for is the undeliverables.
Yeah. So if you look at the header of an email and pick out specific properties from it, that's what you're looking for here. Yep. And so you can take that value and put it into a token name. And sometimes emails will have custom headers that aren't common. So that's what this can be used for.
Mhm. Okay.
And I've used these in the past. It's been a long time since I've worked with the mail triggers, but I've definitely used the additional mail headers option before as well.
Very good.
Does anybody else have any other experience using the IMAP trigger that they want to share? Any cool use cases? Mark, I bet you do. Okay. We will go back to presentation. Thank you for that discussion. And Ben, thank you for sharing. And I will make sure before we upload that we do some blurring in the video.
Much appreciated.
Okay. I'm not sure that we have any new Campfire contributions. And I was working right up until we started this, and I didn't, I usually am very good about bringing everything up ahead of time, and I didn't do it this time. So we bring that up here.
While you're looking, just a quick question and follow up to the great discussion just happened, because I don't do any of this stuff, and this could be a great add-on for a number of the clients that rely on communicating with their, with the local residents, to know that these emails are failing. I'm relying on them, and they rely on their email, and they think, oh, email is always great and always works. And we all know that doesn't happen. But to be able to put some safeguards and logging in place like this with these things sound like a great thing for me to do. However, I've never used them. So first question is the email triggers that you're talking about. It looked like it was an add-on that you have to go to the add-ons and install it so that you have the
right. It's not available by default. Right. That's correct.
Got it. Okay. So that's one. And then secondly, documentation is the help items that you hover over. I forget what you call those. That's the documentation, or is there some kind of other documents on how to use or how to do email processing using Plan and App, like an overall document on it?
There might be. I have to see. We looks like the email trigger is not covered in the automation. So I'm certain we have some legacy documentation that probably is still pretty good, and I can look for that link for you.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make one kind of comment slash notice out there. And again, I'm running on a little bit of an older version, so I'm not sure if this has been fixed in the newer versions. So if it has been, then strike my words from the record. But one of the things that I did notice and I had to program around with regards to the email trigger is that you do get certain tokens as it shows of the incoming email. So for example, it gives you mail colon body, mail body text, and mail body HTML. The way the definition goes, if you do mail.body, it says it's the email body as HTML if there's an HTML version. Otherwise, it's the text version. Then you have body text, which just basically says it's the plain text, and body HTML, HTML if there is one. Now, just out of my own understanding, which was incorrect at the time, I would have assumed, and you know what they say when you assume, that mail body text would have been the plain text of an email, regardless of whether the email was text or HTML. That is not the case.
Okay.
If it is an HTML-based email, body text will be blank. That was a problem for me because when I was parsing out, if it's HTML based, you're going to have a lot of HTML tags in there that are just getting in the way. And
but
especially, God forbid, the person sent it from like Word, which some people do. You get a whole ton of just nonsense HTML information embedded in the email. So basically, what I have to do to get around that, for anyone else that may come across this and wants to do like what I'm doing and parsing data out, if the HTML is not of importance, the first thing I do is I try to dump the body text into a token. And then I check that token. If that token is blank, that means it's an HTML-based email. I will then take the HTML version and then run code to strip out all the HTML tags. In essence, reducing it to strictly text. And then I use that as the body for my parsing.
Now, if an email is sent in, I know that sometimes you have these options. Is if an email sent has both a HTML and a text version, which I guess is not common, but I know that there's a possibility of doing that. You would get both of these, wouldn't you? Is that?
I would assume.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not common, and it's not something that I really even know how to force such a test scenario. So basically, like I said, all I basically did was my importance is resting on a text-based email. I don't care if there's bold or if there's color or anything like that.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do is I grab the text version. If that's blank, that tells me it's HTML, which means I have to grab the HTML, but then I have to strip out all of the HTML tags to reduce it down to strictly text.
But the mail body, this does return whether it's text or HTML, doesn't it return the body? Doesn't that, or am I wrong on that?
It does, but again, I don't, just for the sake of saving on CPU cycles and processing, that's not going to tell you whether it's HTML or text. It's just telling you that whether there's HTML or text,
you only want to run the logic to remove the tags if the tags are there. I get it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why what I do is I grab the text version first. If the token has text in there, I'm golden. I don't even have to process it any further. Yes. But if it comes back as a blank token with no value, then that means there was nothing in the text. That means it must be HTML, which means I must run my HTML code to strip out those tags.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good pointer.
As a possible idea, if a future version of these triggers can offer a field of or make the body text automatically, if it's blank and it's in HTML email, have Plantain app automatically strip out all of the HTML tags and dump just the text in there regardless. So you always have it.
A possibility, but also So I think that part of this is that there is that option for you to send an email with both a text version and an HTML version. I'm sorry, this tooltip keeps disappearing. So that is an option that you can do. I know, and I know it's not commonly used, but
Hmm.
so I think that's that would take discussion. I don't think it's as clear cut as it seems. To say that, okay, if the body text doesn't exist, then we strip HTML out and create that. There could be more things to consider because somebody might be actually like you are already. I know it would work fine for your situation, but you are checking to see if there is a body text and it's telling you whether or not that text email version was sent or not.
Yeah, or if
Yeah.
not use
Yeah.
if not to reuse the same one, which I mean, like you said,
Create
there
another
could,
token. Yeah.
right, there
Yeah.
could be an outlying situation somewhere where maybe that logic would be problematic.
Mhm.
I personally, thinking about it now, I don't see
Body
why that would
body
be an
HT.
issue.
Yeah, like another token
Um,
like body HTML parse to text or something like that.
exactly,
Yeah. Mhm.
right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Worst case scenario, if reusing what's already there may potentially be problematic, then to add another token that explicitly is saying if it's a text-based email, that's what's in here. If it's an HTML-based email, we're gonna parse it and take all the HTML out and just dump the text in here. So no matter which way you slice it, you're always gonna have a value in that body, and it's always gonna be plain text with no HTML in it.
Basic question. These tokens, are they referring to the email that was sent or
Received.
okay, so the bounce back from, in this case, a Microsoft server.
Whatever email was retrieved at the time it did its check, whether it be POP or IMAP.
In my case, I'm always sending out as HTML. But Patrick, if I understood you correctly, there's also the option to send a plain text version of that.
Actually, I don't know if our send email action lets you do both at the same time. I don't think it does, but that is a possibility. Yeah, so, but this would not impact that wouldn't impact this because what this is doing is monitoring the box where you would receive the bounce back
Right.
and so it has to do with that email that's being downloaded, then the bounce back email.
So Ben, in your case, don't you, if that being said, don't you always know that it's going to come back from your, let's say an undeliverable is going to come back to you with a bounce back message in either HTML or plain text? Or am I missing something?
No, there's no way to truly determine because that it's something that's completely 100% out of your control.
Mm.
You cannot control what type of email you're going to get.
It's
And
based on
let's say,
the
for
server that
example,
bounces it back, right? So you're going to all
right,
these different services, and the server that bounces it back is going to send its email.
exactly.
Yeah.
Some servers will send you a bounce back in text, straight text. Others
Mm-hmm.
will send you a bounce back in HTML because they format it. So it's like there's a little bold header here and an underline here, and this
Oh
font is a
yeah.
little bit bigger than the rest, whatever. Like they'll say bounce back in big bold letters in red or whatever. You can't control that. And that's that superfluous information that I don't want to see and I don't care. I just care about the actual data of the email, not its formatting. And the
Right.
formatting just gets in the way, especially when you're trying to parse, information out. So that's the whole reasoning of when you're looking at the return emails and you're parsing out that information, you really should always look at it from a perspective of text. I'm not going to say, let me rephrase that. You should, in most cases, do that. Not going to say that that's always the case because I don't know, maybe there's something specific in the HTML tags that you're looking for as well, in which case, okay, you need to process it as HTML. But in many cases, and I'd probably hazard to guess in most, the HTML is just extra superfluous information that actually would just get in the way of you trying to split and do searches within strings and whatnot. So it's just easier to get all of that out and just deal with the actual text of the email.
Mhm.
And to jump on that last idea with
I think
regards to
did you
ending email.
so just real
Um,
quick, I
mhm.
wanted to ask a question based on that. When a long time ago set up something similar, I used regex to filter out my body. Did you find that the sequel is going to be easier or
I did not use that because that filters what the trigger is actually going to trigger on, and I don't want to do that. I want my trigger to
okay?
run for every email that comes in. And then I have a whole series of different actions depending on what that email is. That email could be an out of office reply.
Right. Okay.
That email could be a bounce back. That email could be something completely different. Um,
Right. So
so based
actually,
off that is what I do.
I was just mistaken in what I was saying. But what I actually did was I used a regex action. I didn't do it with SQL. I used a regex action to. But yeah, there's always several ways to skin a cat, and so
Oh, absolutely. I
yeah,
I mean, I've used regex
yeah,
in
yeah.
certain situations, but I'm not the best with regex syntax, and
Hmm.
I've always found regex, while it's powerful, it's also a pain in the butt to get it to work quite right. The simpler the search, the easier it is. But when you really start getting into complex
Yeah,
things, it's like, no, I just it looks like
yeah. And
complete gibberish to me.
I'm no regex master either. I've always found regex 101, the samples on that site to be of a lot of use. But
Mhm.
now though we have AI, so I think that kind of changes the game in
Yeah.
the creating regex. So
Um, to piggyback on something that Matt said real quick, just
yeah.
to finish a thought, was that you were saying that we have an option of text and HTML. When we send out emails, we do have that option, but it's either or. We can send the email out as text. We can send the email out as HTML. We can't send out both. However, there are systems, for example, like if I'm not mistaken, MailChimp, if you're using those,
Yeah, you can. Yep.
mass email sending systems, you can design this really nice HTML type email, but then you have the option to dither all that down to strictly text, and then based off of whoever's receiving the email and the client that they're using, if it can support HTML, it will display the HTML version. And if it can't, then it's just going to display the text version. But again, it depends on the client that you're using to send the email if they give you the option to send both encapsulated in one email. And that's the whole reason why when we receive the email, we have that option of whether it's body text, body HTML.
Hmm. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification. Cool. Well, I was the next thing on my list here was to talk about. I'm just going to mention it real quick. We don't really have time to talk about it a whole lot, but I wanted to show that the work that Dale did during the Low Code Cafe this week is in the contributions on Campfire. So I think it was a pretty cool use case, and I want to dig into it more. So it's there. Take a look at it. And I think on that note, we are at the end of our time. So I'm going to just go to our ending slide here and thank you all for once again a great discussion. I really appreciate everybody jumping in with all of your ideas, and we will see you again not next week, but the week after that. Um, and until then, happy low coding. Thanks, everybody.
And happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Yeah, happy
Yeah, happy
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Bye.